Now, I'm not going to bore you. They want me to talk on a new subject called Western medicine, which they call as modern medicine, vis-a-vis the ancient Indian system of medicine. To know the difference, you must first know the difference between human body, how it works, and how it can be mended when it goes wrong. Science is change. If it doesn't change, it's not science. Anything that doesn't change is religion. What changes is science. And the science is, today's science doesn't agree with what we all learned and you still learn in colleges. The conventional physics, chemistry, and biology. But the new physics, quantum physics, has uprooted the whole thing. And that makes it easier for you to understand the human body. Now we think in the Western medicine, in Western medical non-science, we think human body is made up of different parts. Like, you have automobile engineers, mechanical engineers with different parts. You make a car, first fix the chassis, then the body, then the engine, and things like that. That's how it is made. So that is not how the human body is made. If you understand in evolutionary biology, you are the one cell, one single nucleated cell when you're made on your mother's womb on the first day. That's called the zygote. That's the first nucleated cell. And this cell, one cell, divides and divides and divides. And today, you are a colony of 120 trillion such cells. And each one of these cells is a human being, capable of doing all that you do. So much so, you are not I, you are we. You are a colony of so many people. This difference, please remember that when you say I and that I, that feeling, illness starts. When you have we, that feeling, wellness comes in. And this is where no human being is independent. Remember that? However big you are, however money you have, you still are dependent on others, because inside your body, for every single cell that is human, you have 10 times cells which are germ cells. Without these germ cells, you cannot survive at all. Between the mouth and the anus, you have 10 to the power 13 germs. And in the mouth, you have 3 billion germs. And if even a few germs die, you get completely disorganized and disease starts there. So germs are not our enemies, germs are our friends. In short, we are germs. For 120 trillion cells, you have 360 trillion germ cells. And we inherit from our parents, because we say, oh, you are like your father, you are like your mother, etc. The inheritance from, genetic inheritance from the parents is just 23,000 human cells in a genome. But you have same genome, you have 2.5 trillion germ genes, metabolomes, germinomes, virinomes, and all kinds of things. And you can imagine the contribution from your parents to you is 23,000 divided by 2.5 trillion. So hardly matters. So it's not the genes that run your body as you think in the olden science. In the new biology, it is the environment that runs it. That is where it's very important to know the environment is very important for disease or disease correction or treatment. Now in the Western medicine, what we do is we have quick fixes. Supposing you have a disease, immediately we give a quick fix and we think it cures the problem. No, it doesn't. Actually, it creates another problem. In short, I always tell my students, there is no pill for every ill, but there is an ill following every pill. Did you get this? That's called adverse drug reactions. As a matter of fact, audit now shows in the West that the leading cause of death is not cancer or heart attack, but adverse drug reactions, which is called ADR. Because we know in the Western non-science, one drug for one disease under ideal circumstances, which is called evidence-based medicine. But unfortunately, in a patient, we don't give one drug. Some of the patients, if you see, it's a laundry list of drugs, about 18, 15 drugs. And there is no science to say what happens when you combine two drugs. But do you know how people are alive? A study showed that when you give one tablet to a patient and tell him to take it daily, the remembrance or the compliance is only 73%. 27% forget. They don't take correctly. Now, when you make it 2 tablets a day, it falls to 42%. When you make it more than 3 tablets a day, it comes down to 22%. which means a 78% of people whom you prescribe this multiple laundry list, they don't take those medicines. If they did, they wouldn't be here. With every single pill has, like for example, I'll give you a very small thing. Every painkiller that you take, what's called NSAIDs, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, can give you a heart attack up to 5 years. From the time you take the medicine, up to the next 5 years, you can get a heart attack. Somebody says, oh, he's fine, he's very healthy. Why did he get a heart attack? He must have been taking every day pain-killing drugs. If you have a headache, one pop a pill. If you have a backache, you pop a pill. And this also damages the kidney. One of the commonest causes for renal dialysis today are the NSAIDs, which damage the kidney. In short, the linear reductionist science of the West. Reductionism, I don't think for you people I should describe what is reductionism. We have to look at the human body as a whole. You can't take a bit and examine it. Like for example, somebody gets a cancer. What do? We take the biopsy of the cancer, a bit of the cancer, and then smear it on the glass slide. By then the cells are all distorted. Then stain it with the ursulin, hemoxilin, so you poison the cells. And then when they dries up, you put it on the microscope and look at it. Now the cells look horrible because they're distorted. But you can't know what that cell is. Because a normal cell and a cancer cell work alike. Remember that? I'll repeat that. A normal cell and a cancer cell work alike. And I don't know how anybody can kill a cancer cell without killing the normal cell. I'll give you an analogy. Supposing a bird comes into your house, a new bird comes into your house. To know what the bird is, where did it come from, where is it going, what's going to happen to the bird, what we do in the Western science is kill the bird, biopsy it, and then put it in the microscope and study the cells and say, this bird came from so and so. That's exactly what we do in cancer. When we say we have a cancer which we describe as metastatic, anaplastic, this, that, etc., doesn't tell you anything about the cancer. So a great biologist, Nobel laureate, Albert Szent-Györgyi wrote, I quote, I do not know what cancer is because cancer cell works like an exactly normal cell. And I don't know the distinction between the two. And I don't know how to treat a cancer cell without killing the normal cell. See, this is where we are in Western reductionist medicine. Come to Ayurveda, the mother of all medical wisdoms in the world, probably one of the oldest, along with various other systems in the East, like Chinese, Tibetan.
I can make diseases disappear. To be more precise, I can make chronic diseases disappear. You see, chronic diseases are the long-term conditions like type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, depression, or even dementia. And there's 15 million people in England who have already been diagnosed with a chronic condition. So that means looking out amongst you now, there's probably about 250 people in here who have one of these long-term conditions. Just one of these alone, type 2 diabetes, is costing the UK £20 billion every single year. And I'm standing here before you saying, I can make these diseases disappear. See, I'm not a magician. I'm what the Americans call an MD. That's not a magical doctor. That's a medical doctor, or what I call a mere doctor. You see, the reason I can make diseases disappear is because diseases are just an illusion. Diseases are not real. In fact, diseases don't really exist. At least not in the way that we think they do. So 15 years ago, I qualified for medical school and I was ready. I was full of enthusiasm, full of passion, ready to go out and help people. But I always felt that there was something missing. I started off as a specialist. I moved from being a specialist to becoming a generalist or a GP. And I always got this nagging sense that I was just managing disease or simply suppressing people's symptoms. And then, just 5.5 years ago, came the turning point for me. You see, 5.5 years ago, my son nearly died. My wife and I, we were on holiday in France, and with our little baby boy, And she called out to me, said he's not moving. So I rushed there, and he was lifeless. I thought he was choking. So I picked him up. I tried to clear his airway. Nothing happened, and I froze. See, she called out to me. My wife said, come on, we've got to get to hospital. So we rushed there, and we were worried because when we got there, he still wasn't moving. The doctors were worried because they didn't know what was happening. That night, he had 2 lumbar punctures because they thought he might have meningitis. And he stayed in a foreign hospital for 3 days. And what actually transpired was my son had a low level of calcium in his blood that was caused by a low level of vitamin D. My son nearly died from a preventable vitamin deficiency, and his father, a doctor, knew nothing about it. You see, as a parent, that is a harrowing experience. That never leaves you. But I was a doctor. I was his dad. And the guilt that stayed with me and is still here today, that changes you. So I started reading. I started reading about this vitamin deficiency. And as I started reading, I started to learn a lot of science that I did not learn at medical school. A lot of science that I thought, hey, this makes a lot of sense to me. So I started applying this science. I started applying it, first of all, with my son, and I saw the amazing benefits. So then I started applying it with my patients, and do you know what happened? People started getting better. Really better. You see, I learned how to resolve the root cause of their problems rather than simply suppressing their symptoms. Just over a year ago, I had the opportunity to make a series of documentaries for BBC One where I got to showcase this style of medicine. I'm going to tell you about one of the patients, a 35-year-old Dottie. Lovely, lovely lady, but she was struggling with her health. Weight problems, joint problems, sleep problems. See, despite Dottie's best efforts, Dottie was unable to make any sustainable changes. So I went into Dottie's house, and in the first week I did some blood tests, and I diagnosed her with type 2 diabetes. 6 weeks later, when I left Dottie's house, she no longer had type 2 diabetes. You see, her